My children won't come home. Your cooking isn't Instagram worthy. Until they tasted my restaurant's Michelin star. When my daughter Ashley rolled her eyes and said, Mom, your cooking just isn't Instagram worthy anymore. We're ordering from that new fusion place. I simply smiled, wiped my hands on my apron, and walked to my bedroom. By the time I came back with my packed suitcase, my entire family was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Where are you going, Grandma Betty? Asked my grandson Kyle, not even looking up from his phone where he was posting pictures of takeout containers. I'm going to show you what real food looks like, I said quietly. They thought they were dealing with a lonely old woman whose time had passed. They were about to learn I was a Michelin-trained chef who had given up everything to raise their ungrateful selves. Justice must be restored and arrogance punished. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. For 30 years, I had been the family's personal chef, caretaker, and ATM machine. After my husband Harold passed 5 years ago, I moved closer to my children, Ashley, 42, and Brian, 39, thinking we'd grow closer as a family. Instead, I became their free babysitter, house cleaner, and meal service. Every Sunday, they'd bring their families to my house. Ashley would arrive with her husband Todd and their twins, Kyle and Kaylee, both 16. Brian would show up with his wife Melissa and their 8-year-old daughter Chloe. 7 people expecting a full spread, and not one of them ever offered to help with dishes. I'd spend Saturday shopping, Sunday morning cooking from 6 a.m., and Sunday evening cleaning until midnight. My pot roast, homemade pasta, and famous apple pie were legendary in our family. At least, they used to be. The change started 6 months ago. Ashley began bringing her phone to dinner, photographing her takeout meals throughout the week. Look at this amazing plating, Mom, she'd say, showing me pictures of $20 salads. This is what real food presentation looks like now. Todd would nod along. Betty, no offense, but restaurants have really stepped up their game. Your food is, well, it's very traditional. Traditional. Like it was a disease. Brian wasn't much better. He'd started making comments about my heavy cooking. Mom, we're trying to eat cleaner now. Maybe lighter portions? Less butter? More? I don't know, whatever kale is supposed to taste like. The final straw came on Mother's Day. I had planned a special meal, lamb with rosemary, roasted vegetables from my garden, and a chocolate soufflé that takes 4 hours to prepare properly. I set the table with my good china, the stuff I'd been saving for special occasions. Ashley walked in, took one look at the spread, and made that face. You know the one, like she'd smelt something bad. Mom, this is so much food. And honestly, she glanced at Todd, who nodded encouragingly. Your cooking just isn't Instagram worthy anymore. It's too old-fashioned. We're ordering from that new fusion place downtown instead. The room went silent. Even little Chloe looked uncomfortable. Kyle, without looking up from his phone, added, Yeah, Grandma, no offense, but your food photos would never get likes. This fusion place has like 50,000 followers. I stood there, looking at my soufflé, perfect golden, exactly like Chef Auguste used to make at Le Bernardin when I trained there 30 years ago before I gave it all up for family. Before any of them were even born. Well then, I said, untying my apron, I suppose you won't be needing me anymore. That's when I went to my bedroom, packed my suitcase with my chef's knives and the few photographs I kept hidden, and walked back out to find them all ordering Thai food on their phones. They didn't even notice me leaving. I drove to the Hilton downtown and checked into a suite. As I unpacked, I found my old culinary school certificates tucked between my clothes, Le Cordon Bleu, my apprenticeship papers from Le Bernardin in New York, and the letter of recommendation from Chef Auguste Dubois himself. 30 years ago, I was Elizabeth Betty Catherine Morrison, rising star in the culinary world. Then I met Harold, got pregnant with Ashley, and chose family over fame. Every year I told myself I'd get back to cooking professionally someday. Someday became 3 decades. Sitting in that hotel room, I opened my laptop, yes, I had one, despite what my family thought, and started researching. The culinary world had changed, but my skills hadn't disappeared. They were just sleeping. I found an article about Marcus Webb, a chef I'd worked with in New York. He now owned 5 restaurants and was quoted saying, "The best chefs I ever knew weren't the ones with the biggest egos. They were the ones who understood that food is love made visible. I wonder what happened to Betty Morrison. She had more natural talent than anyone I've ever met. My heart pounded. Marcus Webb remembered me. I picked up my phone and dialed the number from his restaurant's website. Marcus Webb speaking. Marcus, this is Betty Morrison. You probably don't remember me, but Betty Morrison. Are you kidding me? I've been wondering about you for 20 years. Where have you been? We talked for 2 hours. By the end of the call, Marcus had offered me a consulting position at his newest restaurant, and more importantly, he'd connected me with a food critic from the James Beard Foundation who was looking for authentic voices in modern cuisine. But I had a different plan forming. That night, I didn't call my children. Instead, I researched every food blogger, critic, and influencer in our city. I studied their posts, their language, their audience. These people my family worshipped? They were amateurs compared to what I used to do every day. And most of them had never heard of real French technique. Over the next 2 weeks, I documented everything. Every dismissive comment my family had made, every eye roll, every time they chose takeout over my cooking. I had recordings on my phone from family dinners where they mocked my boring food. But more importantly, I started documenting my own skills. I rented a small commercial kitchen space and began cooking again, really cooking. I made cocoa vin that would make Julia Child weep. My bouillabaisse was perfection. I crafted pastries so delicate they looked like edible lace. And I photographed everything. My Instagram account, at Chef Betty Reborn, started gaining followers immediately. Food bloggers were sharing my photos. Comments poured in. This is real cooking. Finally, someone who understands technique over trends. Where can I taste this food? Within a week, I had 5,000 followers. By the end of 2 weeks, 15,000. Marcus flew in from New York to taste my food. He took one bite of my duck à l'orange and started laughing. Betty, you're better now than you were 30 years ago. This is extraordinary. I've had time to think about each dish, I told him. When you cook for people who appreciate it, every meal becomes art. That's when Marcus made his offer. I want to invest in a restaurant for you. Full partnership. You choose the location, the concept, everything. I handle the business side, you handle the magic. I knew exactly where I wanted to open. 3 blocks from Ashley's house. Right next to the fusion place they loved so much. But I wasn't ready to reveal myself yet. First, I needed to build something they couldn't ignore. The commercial kitchen became my laboratory. I spent 18 hours a day perfecting every recipe, every presentation, every element that would make my restaurant impossible to dismiss. I hired a photographer to capture my dishes professionally. My Instagram grew to 50,000 followers in a month. Local food bloggers started calling the kitchen, begging for tastings. I selected only the 5 most influential critics in the city, and prepared a private 7-course meal that showcased 30 years of suppressed talent. The reviews were incredible. I don't know who Chef Betty is, but this is the most authentic French cuisine I've ever experienced outside of Paris. Every dish tells a story. This isn't just food, it's edible emotion. If you get a chance to taste Chef Betty's cooking, cancel everything else. This is once-in-a-lifetime dining. What they didn't know was that I was also gathering intelligence on my family's favorite restaurants. I knew their orders, their preferences, their schedules. I knew that Ashley posted food photos every Tuesday and Friday at exactly 7 p.m. I knew that Brian's wife Melissa ran a small food blog with 500 followers where she reviewed local restaurants. And I knew they had no idea what real cooking actually was. The restaurant space became available in March. A beautiful corner building with floor-to-ceiling windows and a perfect view of the street. My children would have to drive past it every day on their way to work. I met with Marcus and our architect, a woman named Claire Patterson who specialized in creating intimate dining experiences. We designed something elegant but not pretentious: exposed brick, warm lighting, an open kitchen where diners could watch the magic happen. What are you calling it? Marcus asked as we reviewed the final plans. I smiled. Elizabeth's Table. My full name. The one my family never used anymore. While contractors worked on the space, I planned my menu with the precision of a military operation. Every dish would demonstrate a different technique my family had never seen me use. They thought I could only make pot roast. They'd see my perfect beef Wellington. They thought my desserts were boring. They'd witness my croquembouche that took 8 hours to build properly. But here's what they didn't know was coming. I had already been accepted into the James Beard Foundation's review program. A secret reviewer would visit in my first month of operation. If my food met their standards, I'd be eligible for their prestigious award. The same award that the fusion restaurant next door had been trying to win for 3 years. I hired my staff carefully. Maria, a sous chef who had trained in Lyon. Jacques, a pastry chef who had worked at Per Se. And Carlos, a sommelier who could pair wine with any dish I created. All of them were overqualified for a new restaurant, but they believed in the vision. During our practice runs, Maria asked me something that stopped me cold. "Chef Betty, this food is extraordinary. Why are you opening here instead of New York or Los Angeles where it would be properly appreciated?" I looked out the window toward Ashley Street and smiled. Because I have some people to educate. The marketing strategy was perfect. I'd soft launch with limited seating, only 24 covers per night, Thursday through Sunday. Reservations only, and only through my Instagram account. No phone number listed anywhere. Food bloggers were already calling it the most exclusive reservation in the city. 3 days before we opened, I drove past Ashley's house. She was outside getting her mail and she looked tired. I wondered when she'd last had a proper meal, something made with love instead of ordered from an app. Soon she'd remember what real food tasted like. But first, she'd have to admit she was wrong about everything. Elizabeth's table opened on a Thursday night in April. Every seat was filled with a waiting list 3 weeks long. The local newspaper's food critic had somehow scored a reservation, along with 2 food bloggers and the owner of the city's most expensive restaurant. I watched from the kitchen as the first courses went out. My amuse-bouche was a perfect quenelle of chicken liver mousse with a tiny brioche crisp. Something that looked simple but required techniques most chefs never master. The dining room fell silent as people tasted it. Then I heard something I hadn't heard in years. Appreciative murmurs. Real ones. Not polite family dinner sounds, but the unconscious noises people make when they taste something extraordinary. By the time the main courses arrived, my signature duck breast with cherry gastrique, and my grandmother's ratatouille recipe that I'd elevated to restaurant quality, I knew we'd succeeded. The newspaper critic ordered a second dessert course. 2 food bloggers posted Instagram stories during the meal, something they'd never done before. And the owner of Le Petit Paris, the fancy French place downtown, sent a note to the kitchen asking for my background and training. But the real victory came Saturday morning, when I checked my mentions on social media. Ashley had posted a photo of her breakfast, some acai bowl from a chain smoothie place with the caption, "Healthy eating is so important. Not like the heavy food I grew up with. #clean eating, #new generation." The comments were brutal. "Have you been to Elizabeth's table? That's what real food looks like. Girl, your heavy food comment aged poorly. Chef Betty would destroy this smoothie bowl. Imagine thinking an acai bowl is better than French cuisine, lol." Ashley started responding defensively. "I just prefer lighter, more modern food options." More comments poured in. Modern? Elizabeth's table is using techniques that are 200 years old, and they're perfect. You sound like someone who's never had real food. Tell me you don't understand cuisine without telling me you don't understand cuisine. By Sunday, Ashley had deleted the post. But I was just getting started. Marcus called me that weekend. "Betty, the reservations are insane. We're booked solid through June, and it's only been 3 days. Food and Wine magazine wants to do a feature." The James Beard reviewer came Friday night, and I saw her take notes through the entire meal. "What did she order?" I asked. "Everything. She ordered the full tasting menu, and then 3 additional desserts. She asked the server about your background, your training, where you came from. She seemed shocked that nobody in the city knew your name." Perfect. The next phase would require more precision, but I was ready. I knew exactly when my family would drive past the restaurant. Ashley's yoga class was Tuesday nights at 7 p.m., which meant she'd pass Elizabeth's table at exactly 6:45 p.m. when the dinner crowd was arriving. That Tuesday, I stood by the front window in my chef's coat, greeting guests as they entered. The dining room was full, the wine was flowing, and everyone looked genuinely happy. At 6:44 p.m., I saw Ashley's car slow down as she passed. She was staring at the restaurant, probably wondering why there was a line of people waiting outside a place she'd never heard of. She had no idea her mother was watching her from inside. But she would soon. The Food and Wine article came out 3 weeks later with the headline, "The Mystery Chef Who's Revolutionizing Midwestern Cuisine." They called my food a masterclass in classical technique applied with modern sensibility, and declared Elizabeth's Table the most important restaurant opening of the year. The article mentioned my training at Le Cordon Bleu and Le Bernardin, but said my background before opening the restaurant was mysteriously private. The writer speculated that I was either a former celebrity chef taking a break from the spotlight or someone with extraordinary natural talent who's been hiding in plain sight. Within hours of the article going live, my Instagram gained 20,000 new followers. Reservation requests came from 3 states away. Food Network reached out about a documentary. But the real explosion happened when Melissa, Brian's wife, shared the article on her small food blog with a post titled, "Could this mystery chef be living right under our noses?" She wrote, "Local food lovers are going crazy trying to figure out who Chef Betty really is. Some people think she might be someone we already know. Maybe someone who's been cooking incredible food for years, but never got recognition. Has anyone in our community been underestimating a hidden talent?" The comments on Melissa's blog posts were gold. "My neighbor makes incredible food but her family always orders takeout instead. Makes no sense. I bet it's someone's mom or grandma who got tired of being ignored. Whoever Chef Betty is, she's showing all these young chefs what real skill looks like." Then Kyle, my grandson, shared the Food and Wine article on his social media with the comment, "This place is literally 3 blocks from our house and we've never heard of it. How is some random chef better than all the influencer restaurants we follow?" Ashley commented on Kyle's post, "I'm sure it's just overhyped. These food magazines always exaggerate. Real food is about health and presentation, not fancy French stuff nobody can pronounce." Big mistake. Kyle's friends started responding, "Ashley, have you seen the photos? This food looks incredible. French cuisine is literally the foundation of all good cooking. Maybe you should try it before judging it." Then someone I didn't expect joined the conversation, Todd, Ashley's husband. "Actually, I've been wanting to try Elizabeth's Table. The reviews are amazing and I miss really good food. We should make a reservation." Ashley's response was pure defensiveness. "We eat at great places all the time. That fusion restaurant next door has 50,000 Instagram followers. Numbers don't lie." The replies came fast. "Followers don't equal quality. Elizabeth's Table is already being reviewed for a James Beard Award. Ashley, you sound afraid to try real food." By that evening, the entire exchange had been screenshot and shared in local foodie groups. People were calling Ashley's comments embarrassingly ignorant, and exactly why good chefs don't get recognition. Someone in the group wrote, "Elizabeth's Table is what happens when a real chef decides to stop hiding their talent." Meanwhile, some people in this city think Instagram followers matter more than actual skill. The post got 300 likes and 89 comments, all agreeing. Brian tried to defend his sister by posting on his own social media, "My family has always appreciated good food. We just prefer modern, healthy options over heavy traditional cooking." Wrong move. The foodie community descended on him too. Traditional French cuisine isn't heavy when it's done right. Healthy doesn't mean good. Skill means good. Your family sounds like they've never had properly prepared food. One comment hit particularly hard. "I feel sorry for whoever was cooking for your family before. They probably never got the credit they deserved." That comment got 47 likes. Within 2 days, both Ashley and Brian had made their social media accounts private. But the damage was done. The local community now saw my family as the exact kind of people who don't appreciate real food. The kind who choose trends over substance, followers over flavor. And they had no idea the mystery chef they'd insulted was the woman who had cooked for them their entire lives. The James Beard Award nomination came in May. I was sitting in my office above the restaurant when Marcus called, practically screaming into the phone. Betty, you did it. You're nominated for Outstanding Chef. Do you understand what this means? I understood perfectly. It meant 30 years of suppressed talent had been officially Betty Morrison was the most naturally gifted cook I ever trained. When she disappeared from the industry, we all wondered what happened to her. Now I see she never stopped growing as a chef. She just needed the right moment to show the world what she could do. The business impact was immediate. We raised prices by 30% and still couldn't meet demand. I hired additional staff and extended our days to Wednesday through Sunday. Marcus was fielding calls from investors wanting to fund additional locations in Chicago, Nashville, and Austin. But the personal impact was even better. My phone started ringing on Tuesday morning. Ashley, Mom, where are you? We came by your house and the neighbor said you moved out weeks ago. We've been worried sick. I let it ring. She called back 5 times before leaving a voicemail. Mom, please call us back. We miss you. We want to talk about what happened at Mother's Day. Maybe we overreacted about the food thing. Brian found some article about a restaurant that sounds like it has food you'd like. We could all go together when you come home. The article she was referring to was about Elizabeth's table. She still didn't know. Brian called next. Mom, Ashley told me you moved. We need to talk. We found this amazing restaurant we think you'd love. It's exactly your style of cooking but elevated. The chef is nominated for some big award. We want to take you there for your birthday. They wanted to take me to my own restaurant. The irony was perfect. I called them back Thursday evening and agreed to meet them for dinner. I'll make the reservation, I said. Saturday night at 8 p.m. Where? Ashley asked. Elizabeth's table. I think it's exactly what our family needs. Oh my gosh, Mom. That's the place we've been talking about. How did you get a reservation? They're booked for months. I have my ways, I said. That Saturday afternoon, I prepared for the most important dinner service of my life. Not because of the food. I could cook every dish blindfolded by now. But because tonight, my family would finally see who I really was. I arranged for them to be seated at table 7, directly in front of the open kitchen. I wanted them to have the perfect view when I walked out to greet my guests. Marcus flew in from New York for the occasion. Are you sure you're ready for this? He asked as we reviewed the evening's preparations. I've been ready for 30 years, I told him. They just weren't ready to see it. At 7:30 p.m., I watched through the kitchen window as my family arrived. Ashley wore her best dress, the one she saved for special occasions. Brian had on a suit I'd never seen before. Even the kids had dressed up properly. They looked nervous and excited, like they were somewhere important. They had no idea how important it really was. At 8:15 p.m., after my family had been seated and served their first course, my signature amuse-bouche that they were photographing like tourists, I walked out of the kitchen. I moved through the dining room slowly, greeting other tables, thanking guests for coming, accepting compliments on the meal. Standard chef behavior. When I reached table 7, Ashley was mid-sentence, telling Todd how sophisticated the food was compared to traditional home cooking. Good evening, I said.
I'm Chef Betty.
I hope you're enjoying your dinner. The table went completely silent. Kyle looked up from his phone first. His mouth actually dropped open. Grandma, he whispered. Ashley's face went through about 6 different expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion, recognition, shock, embarrassment, and something that might have been panic. Betty. Brian stood up so fast he knocked over his wine glass. What? How? You're the chef. The entire restaurant was watching now. Other diners had noticed the commotion and were turning to look. I smiled calmly. Yes, I'm the chef. I'm Elizabeth Morrison, Chef Betty. This is my restaurant. But you're our mom, Ashley stammered. You make pot roast and casseroles. You don't. This food is, it's professional level. This food, I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, is the same level I've always cooked. The difference is that here, people appreciate it. Melissa, Brian's wife, looked like she wanted to disappear under the table. She was the one who had written the blog post about the mystery chef, hiding in plain sight. Mom, Brian said, sitting back down heavily. We had no idea you could cook like this. Why didn't you ever tell us? The question hung in the air like smoke. I did tell you, I said quietly. Every Sunday for 5 years, I showed you exactly what I could do. You chose to order takeout instead. Ashley's eyes were filling with tears. We didn't know. We thought your food was just... We didn't understand. You didn't understand because you never bothered to learn, I continued. You decided that Instagram followers mattered more than skill, that fusion trends mattered more than technique, that being modern mattered more than being good. Kyle, who had been silent through this whole exchange, suddenly spoke up. Grandma, this food is incredible. Like seriously incredible. Why did we never appreciate it before? Because, I said, looking directly at Ashley, you thought your grandmother's cooking wasn't Instagram worthy. The words hit like a slap. Ashley actually flinched. Other diners were openly listening now. This was better than dinner theater. The chicken liver mousse you photographed 20 minutes ago? I continued. I've been making that for 30 years. The duck you called sophisticated? That's the same preparation I offered you last Christmas. You ordered pizza instead. Todd cleared his throat. Betty, we owe you an enormous apology. We had no idea. You had every idea, I interrupted. You chose not to see it. I turned to address the whole table. For 30 years, I cooked with love for this family. I planned menus, shopped for ingredients, spent entire days in the kitchen creating meals that would bring us together. And for the last 2 years, you've treated me like a burden whose food wasn't good enough for your modern tastes. The restaurant had gone quiet. Even the kitchen staff were listening. 3 months ago, you told me my cooking wasn't Instagram worthy. Tonight, you're posting photos of the exact same cooking techniques with captions about how elevated and extraordinary the food is. Ashley was openly crying now. Mom, we're so sorry. We were wrong about everything. Yes, I agreed. You were wrong about everything. But more than that, you were cruel. You took someone who loved you enough to cook for you every week and made them feel worthless. I paused, looking around the table at their faces. The good news is you'll never have to eat my traditional food again. You can keep ordering from your fusion places and your Instagram-worthy restaurants. I'll be here, cooking for people who actually understand what food is supposed to be. Brian reached out like he wanted to touch my hand. Mom, please. We want to make this right. We want to come home and have you cook for us again. We understand now. I stepped back from the table. This is my home now, I said. These people are my family now. They appreciate what I do. I gestured toward the dining room full of guests who were watching this unfold with fascination. You're welcome to make a reservation like anyone else. But family dinner is over. 6 months later, Elizabeth's table won the James Beard Award for Outstanding Chef. The ceremony was held in Chicago, and I wore a custom dress that made me feel like the professional I'd always been inside. Marcus walked with me to the podium, and when they called my name, the entire culinary industry stood and applauded for 30 seconds straight. My acceptance speech was simple. This award belongs to everyone who has ever cooked with love and had their efforts dismissed. Food is not about trends or followers. It's about nourishing the people we care about with skill, respect, and genuine care. Thank you for finally seeing what was always there. The speech went viral. Back home, Elizabeth's table now has a 6-month waiting list. We've opened for lunch service, added a chef's counter for 12 guests, and I've published a cookbook called Hidden in Plain Sight, A Mother's Guide to Real Cooking. Food Network aired the documentary about my story. It won an Emmy. My family, Ashley and Brian, both tried to reconcile multiple times. They've written letters, sent flowers, and even attempted to make reservations using fake names. I've turned them all down. Not out of cruelty, but because some lessons need to be permanent. Kyle, my grandson, was different. He wrote me a real letter, handwritten, thoughtful, honest about how their family had treated me. He asked if he could work in my kitchen during summer break, not as family, but as an employee who wanted to learn. I hired him as a prep cook. He works harder than anyone else, never mentions our relationship to other staff, and he's learning what real food service means. Last month, I taught him how to make perfect hollandaise sauce. He cried when he tasted it. Grandma, he said, I'm so sorry we were too stupid to see how amazing you are. You weren't stupid, I told him. You were just young and influenced by people who didn't know better. The difference is you chose to learn. Todd, Ashley's husband, comes by sometimes. He sits at the bar, orders quietly, and never mentions knowing me. He always leaves a 30% tip and a note that says thank you. I respect his approach. The fusion restaurant next door closed last month. They never got their James Beard nomination, and once people tasted real food, their Instagram-worthy presentations couldn't compete. Their space is becoming a wine bar that will complement my restaurant perfectly. As for me, I wake up every morning excited to cook. My staff respects my knowledge, my guests appreciate my skills, and my fellow chefs consider me an equal. I'm not just mom anymore, I'm Chef Elizabeth Morrison, James Beard Award winner and owner of one of the Midwest's most celebrated restaurants. I spent 30 years being underestimated. I plan to spend the next 30 proving them all wrong. Sometimes love means knowing when to stop giving it to people who don't value it. And sometimes the best revenge is living so well that everyone else realizes what they lost. My name is Elizabeth Morrison. I am 67 years old. I am a James Beard Award-winning chef, and I am nobody's burden. And I've never been happier.
If this story got you thinking, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that hit deep, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear this one, share it with them. Thanks for watching.